Hello everyone, welcome back. My name's dustinkreis and we've returned to the basement. So that can only mean one thing. Yes, it is time for a game discussion. And tonight's game discussion is going to be a little bit fun because this is something that I just recently added to my collection. And I'm so happy to have it, and it's really the crown jewel of my collection. And that's Panzer Dragoon Saga for the Sega Saturn. Yes, I just beat this game not 10 minutes ago, and ready here now to do a game discussion video on this. And hopefully in this video I'll be able to answer the age-old question, is this game worth the price of entry? And we'll see if, you know, I can answer that question in this video. But, you know, this is a game that I hemmed and hawed over for years, and I just sat back and watched the price rise and rise and rise and rise. I could have had, the first time I thought about buying this game, I think it was $150. And I should have bought it then, but what I paid for it was incredibly reasonable compared to a lot of the going rates on eBay and Amazon. So, really happy to get it for the price I got it for, and man, what a great game. You know, it's not just a great collector's piece to have, it's just a fantastic game in its own right. It's so original, the world is so unique, and the battle system is so original. It's just, it's one of those games that you play it and you're like, why didn't they make more of these? Why didn't they make more games like this? You know, why didn't we have a Panzer Dragoon Saga 2 on the Xbox? You know, we had Panzer Dragoon Orta, but we never got another RPG in the Panzer Dragoon universe, and that's a real shame. And it's a real shame that the price in this game is so high, because I think a lot of RPG gamers out there would really love to have this game and play it. And, you know, even though I own the physical copy and I want its value to maintain, I really hope that they, at one point in time, do a digital download version of the game, or do like an HD remake or something, because this is one of those games that I really wish more people could get the chance to experience. It's very, very good. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start talking about this game. Break it down like I always do. The storyline. Now, well, before we get into that, let me talk about one thing here in the game, and that is the game's length. It's 4 discs long, but my final playtime was only 15 hours. Okay, and if you were to explore every map and you were trying to find every piece of treasure, like I didn't do a lot of the in-game treasure hunting stuff, you could probably squeeze 20 to 25 hours out of this game. But it's an incredibly short game. So on the one hand, you know, you have to take that into account when you're going to buy it. On the other hand, I really enjoyed its length, and I think that this game did more in those 15 hours than most games do in 40. The storyline, which we're going to talk about now, starts off, you're playing as a character named Edge. And, well, before we start that, when you start the game, it asks you to put your real name in. And we'll get into the reason why you do this later on. But you put your real name in, and the story starts, and you play as Edge. And he is a mercenary that has been hired to guard these ruins that are being excavated, and hired by the Empire to help guard these ruins. And the Empire finds something there, and then once they find something, all hell breaks loose. And what they find is, they find a young girl named Azel, who is sort of locked in a 1,000-year sleep inside this metallic box. And we don't really know what she is or why, but the Empire is really determined to get her. And so they begin killing everybody at the encampment, including Edge's master/father figure, and this sets Edge out on a path of revenge. What we find out through the course of the game is that this is actually not the Empire, but a rogue splinter group that plans on using a Zell for their own purposes. So, in a sense, the storyline goes into sort of this three-way battle between the Empire, Kramen's fleet, and Edge with his, what he eventually finds is a dragon, which in this world, of course, dragons have a very a mythic, a more mythic quality than they do in our own world, you know. In our own world, you know, people kind of looked at dinosaur bones as dragons, and that's sort of where the myth came from. But in this world, there really is only like 1 or 2 dragons out there, and they really have these sort of godlike, not so much godlike, but they're the sort of the protectors of the gods and the ancient technology and stuff. So they have a really important purpose in this game. And he finds his own dragon that bonds with him, and they set out on this adventure to, well, not really an adventure, they set out for revenge against Kramen for killing his father. But through the course of the game, of course, the storyline changes. It goes from a revenge story to a sort of we have to save the world story to a very nice story with a Zell. I really enjoyed Azell's story, and then with Edge. And then the ending of the game is, it's one of those endings that is open, but at the same time, it kind of wraps up a story. So while there could very well be a Panzer Dragoon Saga 2 that continues the story for these characters, you know, in Game 1 you play as Edge, and then in Game 2 you play as Azell. You know, it's very possible that that could happen if there's ever an interest in it, and I really think, I really would enjoy that. The world that the story presents is very sparse and underpopulated. You're only going to run into a few towns with characters to talk to and stuff. But for the most part, this world has been utterly devastated, and people are basically scrounging to get by. So there's not a lot of interaction with other characters. Really, it's just Edge talking to Azell, or talking to, oh, I forget his name, but he's the guy with the mask on his head. You know, just various other NPCs throughout the storyline. It's very minimalistic, and I think that's one of the words you kind of want to keep in mind. But the world that it presents, even though how sparse it is, it's still... Panzer Dragoon has one of those worlds that I instantly fall in love with. It's so foreign and alien, but at the same time, you can almost see a culture developing like that. And I don't know what it was, but there's just something about like the aesthetic of this game that draws me in, and I really enjoyed the story. I think it, you know, it's very brief, you know, and it doesn't waste a lot of time with unnecessary fluff like a lot of other RPGs do sometimes. You know, it's nice, like in the Tales games, the skits. I really enjoy the skits. And I really think they're fun, but are they necessary? You know, this game really kind of boils it down to its bare essentials, and it's a stronger game for it in a lot of ways. You know, the experience is short, but it's a great 16 hours. You know, the gameplay. This is where the game really shines. It's not really your traditional RPG in that there's really no overworld. You move from point to point on the map, and then you go into these big open areas, and you fly your dragon around. And, you know, there's very few moments where you're actually off of the dragon, or off of a flying vehicle. Come here. Come here. You've been in all the videos here lately, why not? This is Ada. She likes to poke her nose in things, and she's very curious. So, say hi to everybody. Alright. She likes to come down here when I'm talking and interrupt things. But anyway, where was I at? Oh yes, the gameplay. So there's very few moments where you're actually on foot. Really only when you're in encampments, or you're actually in the villages themselves. Other than that, you're flying around on the back of your dragon. And that's the way it should be, because it's a Panzer Dragoon game. In Panzer Dragoon 1 and Panzer Dragoon Saga, you're always on the dragon. In Panzer Dragoon Orta, you're always on the dragon. So why would the RPG in the series be any different? So I really like that aspect, And you know, I really liked it, for what the Saturn can do, and I really want to say this for the graphics department. But the environments were really nice, and flying around them was a lot more seamless than I thought it was going to be. I really thought this game might be a really choppy affair, but I only really noticed slowdown in the towns when there was so much, you know, stuff, so much geometry going on around it. When you're flying around and stuff, the Saturn can kind of fudge the graphics a little bit. But let's go ahead and get into the battle system. And the battle system is one of the great reasons to play the game. And it's a real-time, well, it's kind of turn-based, but it's kind of real-time. It's kind of hard to talk about without having a frame of reference. So if you watch this video and you're really wondering what the battle system's like, there's probably tons of videos out there on the battle system for Panzer Dragoon Saga. So, but anyway, you know, it's random encounters for the most part. Sometimes a monster will jump out at you and it'll force you to go into a battle. But random encounters, and then you go into another screen, of course, and what you have to do, and it's going to be hard to describe, but basically the monster you're fighting is in the middle, and you have to position yourself around the 4 quadrants to sort of you know, have them miss your shots, to find their weaknesses. It's really a lot of fun to try to fight for position in these battles, and you try to use the best means possible to dispatch these enemies. Which, there is the dehumidifier, which I forgot about again. Oh boy, this is a good one. This is a good one. But anyway, so you have basically 3 modes of attack in this game. You have your handgun that you carry. You have your dragon's laser breath, which shoots out the different homing lasers. And then you have basically what's essentially magic in the game. So there, you have to kind of weigh the pros and the cons of using each of these abilities, because sometimes magic is not effective against enemies. Sometimes, you know, when you target an enemy with your gun, it'll say anti-shot, which means your shot isn't going to do anything, so you need to use the dragon's lasers. Sometimes when you're trying to pinpoint a weak spot, you have to use that gun instead of using the lasers, because the lasers lock on to whatever's closest to you. So it might not lock on to that weak point, so you have to use your gun to sort of cursor around and find the weak spot. And it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, the difficulty level is not very high in this game. I never died once, and I was never ever really in a position where I thought I was going to die. You know, I don't know if that's just because I locked into the battle system really early and was really getting into it, or if it's just that easy of a game. It's a pretty easy game, but you know, I don't think that's really a detriment. You know, I was having so much fun playing it that I never really noticed the challenge, the lack of challenge to it. It was just a lot of fun. So, but what else is there? Oh, when you do your attacks, you have 3 bars down along the bottom of the screen, and what those represent is your action points, essentially. They gradually fill up, and you know, like a shot with your gun is 1 bar, or your dragon's breath, the dragon lasers are 1 bar. Using an item is 1 bar. When you get into magic, sometimes it takes 2 bars, sometimes it takes 3 bars. You know, so you have to kind of weigh the pros and the cons of charging up your attacks or trying to attack really fast to get the battle over with. Another cool thing about this game is if you let all 3 bars charge up completely and leave them charged, you'll gradually start to regain health. And so that's nice to remember in long battles when you're fighting for position. You know, sometimes it's best to just leave your things fully charged and you know, gain that health back. One thing I forgot to tell you while you guys are fighting for positions, the little radar screen down the bottom also shows you like where the attacks are going to happen. So like it's basically it's like a Simon Says board down there. It's a circle that's separated into 4 wedges, and like there'll be one wedge that's green. That means that it's safe for you to hang out there, whereas other wedges are clear, which means you know, it's okay being there, but the enemy can attack you. And then there's the red wedges, which means this is where you do not want to be, because this is where the most powerful attack is going to happen. It just so happens that a lot of enemies' weak points are in the red quadrants. So you're constantly moving around because the enemies are moving with you. So the quadrants will change on you as you're moving. So it gets to be a real battle sometimes, fighting for position and trying to get the best angle of attack. So it's a really fantastic battle system, and this is the reason why I really want this game to. They really want them to make another one, because it's just such a great battle system that, you know, we always talk about the great battle systems of video gamedom. You know, like Grandia. You know, this is one of them. It really is one of the best battle systems. And if they ever did another Panzer Dragoon game, you know, God, how awesome would it be to have an HD version of this? It would just be astounding. One last thing about the gameplay, and I was kind of saving this for my pickups video, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now. You really should get a 3D controller, and this is the 3D controller that I found at Half Price Books for $7. And I got it home and plugged it in and tried to use it on like Daytona USA and on Panzer Dragoon Saga. Would not work. And I was like, well, you know, it's only $7, who cares? But what I did was, it's actually kind of cool. It actually deconnects completely from the cable itself. And what you see there is you have pin connectors, like on a Nintendo game and stuff. Well, what happened is there was all this gunk over top of it. I don't know why. So I got out one of my X-Acto knives here and kind of just scraped that gunk off the top of it and, you know, Windexed it up and everything, plugged it back in, and it worked like a champ. So this is it's actually, I really enjoy this controller, and you can see the influence on the Dreamcast controller. You know, it's essentially the same controller, but I really like this stick. And what I like about this stick is that instead of using like the clickies like normal analog sticks do, this uses magnets, so it's less prone to wear out. So that's really nice. And I really like the feel of it. It's really got a nice feel to it, as opposed to like analog sticks and stuff. Your finger just kind of fits in it and stays in it. But you know, yeah, I would definitely suggest picking up one of these, because I tried playing it with the controller for a while, and it's really hard to maneuver in those 3D environments with just the digital analog or the digital control pad. So when I started using the analog stick, it was really nice. So I really recommend you getting a 3D pad. Oh, another thing I want to talk about is, doesn't this kind of look like the Reliant from Star Trek II? Nerdy, I know, but it reminds me of the Reliant. I think it makes a fantastic looking little spaceship. But anyway, let's get back to Panzer Dragoon Saga. The graphics. Let's talk about the graphics. As you know, if you've watched my channel, I'm not a big fan of this era's graphics. And, you know, when talking about these classic games, it's really hard sometimes to talk about the graphics, because when I look at Panzer Dragoon Saga, I go, this has not aged well. You know, when you look at it now, and if you don't look at it from like a historic standpoint, the game looks ugly. There's a lot of charm to it, but it's still an ugly looking game, and it was kind of an ugly looking game when it first came out too. The Saturn is not a 3D powerhouse. If you want to see what a Saturn can do, watch Princess Crown. That's what a Saturn can do, and that is insane. 3D. This video is just fucked. Okay, we had the dog interrupting, we had that interrupting, and now the camera's falling apart again. I need to super glue it. Anyway, I'm not starting over. Screw that. We've gone too far to go back. Anyway, you know, the Saturn is not a 3D powerhouse, so it was never going to look great. But what they did with what they had in that system is pretty awesome. And that kind of counts for why the game is so short and it's on 4 discs, because the rendered FMV cutscenes take up a lot of real estate on those discs. The game is fully 3D polygoned, not like Final Fantasy VII, which used pre-rendered backgrounds. That's how they were able to sort of fudge that a bit. But this is fully 3D, so it takes a lot of real estate, and it's very impressive. It's very impressive on one point, but on the other hand, it just hasn't aged well. But when you look at it in sort of a historic standpoint and you see what they did with the limitations that they had, you can't help but admire it. I mean, it's kind of like when I watched the Sega Saturn Shenmue video. Like, yeah, it doesn't compare at all to the Dreamcast, the final version of Shenmue, but there's still a charm to it. I think that's something I like about the Sega Saturn, is that it can't do 3D very well, but it's still pretty charming. And I like the really the sort of overly pixelated polygon look, and like the particle effects and stuff, and how it can't do transparencies with water and things like that. There's a lot of limitations on the Saturn, but there's a lot of charm to it as well. So the graphics, yeah, the character models in the FMV videos, sometimes they look really, really good, and sometimes they look very freakish. But on the most part, the graphics are not a hindrance. Sometimes they get a little dark in places, and it's kind of hard to see what you're supposed to be doing. But I could see a lot of young people, buying this game because it's rare and putting it in and playing it and being like, oh my god, this is so ugly. But back in the day, anything in 3D where you could run around in 3D, we just gobbled up and thought was the greatest thing ever. So there you go. Another big draw for the game is the music, and I really want the soundtrack, but I'm imagining that the soundtrack is probably astronomically priced as well. So I tried looking on like ISO Hunt for a torrent, but I couldn't find one. So I don't know. But the music is very, very, very good in this game, and very original. Like, a lot of the songs you wouldn't hear in other RPGs, and that's really great, because a lot of times you're playing through an RPG and the music just sounds kind of similar to everything else. Every Tales game, the music sounds the same to me. I love the Tales series, but every game the music sounds like it's the same soundtrack. So it's really refreshing to have a lot of these different tracks and different sounds in this game. So yeah, guys, Panzer Dragoon Saga. So here's the big question. Is it worth the price of entry? And for that, I have 2 answers. If you are a collector and you like to have nice things, this is a no-brainer. It's a fantastic game. Unlike most rare games that are terrible, Cheetahman, this is actually a really fantastic game. And once you get done playing it, I'm going to go back to this in a couple years. I'm going to let it kind of seep out of my memory, and then I'm going to go back and try to experience it again for the first time again, because it really is a fantastic game. But, once you're done with it, you can put it back on the shelf, and if you have people over that know about video games, it's a nice conversation piece. You can pull it out and be like, yeah, it's actually a really awesome game. If you are just in video gaming just to play games, if you're not a collector, that kind of stuff, don't do this, because this is just not like a pick up and play style game. This is an investment. This is not just a game. It's a big chunk of change, and that's the only thing you can say is it's an investment. The prices on this are only going to go up. So if you guys want to get this, I would highly recommend you get it now, because as far as I know, the source code is still lost on this, so they say they're not able to bring this out anymore in any other format. So unless they go and remake the game from the ground up, there's really nothing they can do. But so prices on this are only going to go up, and I think the PAL copies. This video is just whatever. I think the PAL copies are even more rare than the US copies. So I think there's a total of a total of 30,000 U.S. copies. I think that's right, because I think the initial print run was 6,000, and then they did 2 more of 12,000. So there's only 30,000 of these out there. So one of 30,000. But yeah, so that's my thing, guys. If you want to invest the money in it and have it in your collection, by all means get it, because it is a fantastic game. If you just like to play games and then sell them, no, don't do this. Don't do it, because you can buy so many other games for this price. I mean, you want this, if you get this game, you want it for more than just playing it. You want it to be in your collection. It's a collector's item. Let's just put it that way. It's a collector's item, you know. Not for the kiddies. So anyway, that's Panzer Dragoon Saga, guys. A really fantastic game, and I'm really happy that I bought it. I'm really happy with my purchase, and I'm really happy to have it set there on the shelf while I play other games now. But so yeah, still gonna be playing Ys Origin, and other than that, I'm looking at my queue there, and I'm thinking we're gonna go with Suikoden 2 for the next game down here in the cave. So yeah, so two big spenders. Hey, big spender! Two big spenders back to back. Why not? So anyway, yeah, if you guys have played Panzer Dragoon Saga, please leave me a comment down below and tell me what your thoughts are on the game. Or if you know, would you buy a game like this? You know, I paid over 200 for it. Not much over 200, but over 200, and for 16 hours of playtime. But it's also a great collector's piece. So, you know, how do you weigh those? You know what I mean? And of course, the prices are only going to go up. So, what are you going to do? So yeah, leave me some comments and tell me what you guys think about Panzer Dragoon Saga. Do you think it's worth it, or do you think it's just overblown nonsense? Anyway, that's it for me. This video was a little cursed, but we made it through it, and that's all that matters. So, like always, I'll put something up here just as soon as it tickles my fancy. I actually recorded a video before this one, but I wanted to put a game video up there because I haven't, the last 2 videos, not really the last 3, because the Nintendo Power ones are more about Nintendo Power than the games themselves. But I've kind of been laxing on the video game stuff and kind of doing other things, so I kind of want to get it back to the video game stuff for you guys, because that's the reason why you're here, and hopefully you enjoyed this one. So I'm going to go, what time is it? Yeah, I'm probably going to go play some Ys Origin, so I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.